And welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'll be talking about the pros and cons of working for Cambly Kids. Cambly is an online English tutoring platform, and Cambly Kids is the spin-off subversion that is aimed at children. And I am going to go through the pros and cons of what it's like to work for them. But first, the pros. Number one, I love my students. The students are awesome. On Cambly Kids, you work with reservations only. So if they want to book a lesson with you, that's the only way that they can do it. On the main platform, you can just get random calls coming in, but on Cambly Kids they only do reservations, so most of the time you have regulars. I have like a little tribe of regulars that I love. I see them several times a week on week, like every week, and I love them. I think they're brilliant. I look forward to our lessons. I think they look forward to seeing me. They always seem to act like they like in seeing me, so I love the kids that I have on the platform. Number two, another thing is that you can get kids from all over the world. So I have some that are from like Japan and China and Korea and the Philippines, and then you get ones that are in the middle like Saudi Arabia. They are literally all over the world. So it's brilliant. It's like you'll talk to someone like in Japan at one point, and then the next like lesson you'll have someone in somewhat like from a different place in the world, and it's just very interesting to see and learn about their culture as well as me teaching them English. So I love the fact that they come from all over the world, which then also helps with schedules and timings, because there are kids all over the world, not just in one time zone. So that helps with number three. You can set your own schedule. So Cambly is a 24/7 platform. So regardless of what time of the day you want to open, the chances are you will coincide with a time that works well for someone somewhere in the world, which is great, because then if you want to work early mornings you can, if you want to work nights you can. I personally work between 8 o'clock in the morning and 2:30 in the afternoon Greenwich Mean Time, which is a London time zone. So for me, that works great. The majority of my students are in Asia, around this part, and then I get a few in the afternoon around this part of the world. But if you work, say, later in the day, you would get people from more like South America, and then more like the nighttime ones that are in Saudi Arabia and places like that. So it's great that it gives you that wide of a spread. There's also no limits on how often you have to work or how long you have to work for. It's completely up to you how long you do. I use it as a full-time job. It's the only thing I do. So for me, it works great. Number four is that you don't need a degree to teach on Cambly. There's a lot of English tutoring platforms where you are required to have a degree, which for me, I've had 7 years experience working in schools, so I know how to do my job. I think I'm quite good at my job, but I don't have a degree, so that automatically limits me from a lot of various companies. But with Cambly Kids, you don't need a degree, and I'm thankful for that opportunity, and I know that the parents are happy with the way that I'm teaching their children, so that is great. You also don't need to have the experience either. I find that for me, I use a lot of my experience in my teaching, so for me I think having an experience does help, but it's not a requirement, which is good, because then it gives everybody the chance to break into the world of online tutoring, which is good. Number five, Cambly Kids has creative flexibility on the slides. So we are given like a PowerPoint presentation of the type of things that we have to go through and teach, but it's not strict. So if we don't want to like teach what's on the slides, or if there's a kid that wants to work on something different, we have that flexibility to go with the flow if we want to. We're not required to do that if you don't want to. You can purely teach the slides, but if you feel like doing an extra area, you are allowed to do that, which then brings me on to number 6, is there is a screen share function, which is brilliant. I was a little bit worried about first using it because obviously you have to kind of get used to how it works, but now I use it all the time in all of my lessons. I read books with kids. If they finish the lessons early, I play games with them. I might make another video on the things that I find the best for my kids that I tend to share the most, but it's a great function where you can show something that's on your screen and then they can see it too, and you can download a Chrome extension, which means that you can then write on a website page, which is good as well. So you can like underline the words as they're reading them. And I just think it's a great function that is on the system. I personally use it all the time, and I think my kids really enjoy it too. Right, number 7 is the online tutor community. Being an online tutor, it can feel a little bit like you have no co-workers because you're obviously, this is my classroom. I talk to a screen all day long. I don't really have any adult co-workers that you can talk to on a lunch break or anything like that. But there are Facebook groups where tutors can talk to each other. We share resources that we've found, or if there's problems or ways to, if you get stuck on a slide and you don't quite know how to teach it, there's usually someone that will come on and will help you. There's some Facebook groups that I've been in before where people can be really like mean, but the online one for Cambly is actually really good, and 99% of the time if you ask a question you won't be made to feel like you're an inconvenience. People are happy to help, even if we repeat each like ourselves over and over again, which is kind of like the job that we do anyway, but with the children. So it's just a really lovely community that I found is a highlight for me. I do enjoy scrolling through the groups and helping out other people, which is why I'm making these videos. I like to help out other tutors because when I was new, I had questions, and I like to now share my experience with other people too. So number 8 of pros is that their tutor support I found is really good. There is a button, so if ever you have a problem, whether it be a tech problem or a question regarding students, you can click on it and you can email them, and you will first get back an auto response, which will give you some like ideas or like the most frequently asked like questions and answers. But if you then reply to that email, you then get a human, and they're always very helpful with any queries that you have or helping you out or suggesting what to do. I personally found that they've always been really great, and you usually hear back fairly fast, bearing in mind that there's people all around the world, so you have to kind of give a little bit of leeway for things like time zones if they're not in your time zone. But other than that, I found tutor support to be really helpful, and they've always answered all of my problems, so that is great. And now the cons. Right, so number 1 is that with the current exchange rate, the wage that we get is pushing UK minimum wage. It barely scrapes it, which is a shame because obviously as the minimum wage keeps going up, it then makes our wage get further away from that limit. It is an American-based company, and they don't have a minimum wage there, or if they do, it is very low. I know it's not quite like the UK level, but that can obviously be hard going. I've been, like I said, I've had 7 years working in a school, and my school wages have always been higher than what I'm currently earning now. There is obviously the benefit of that I don't have to commute anywhere and stuff like that, but it would be nice if you get minimum wage, especially when we obviously then have to pay taxes on top of all of our earnings. So number 2 for a con is that there are sometimes tech issues on the platform, but I kind of think of it as you're working with a company that's going all over the world. I used to live in America, and I'm from the UK, and I know what FaceTime connections were like. It's like some days the connection would be awful and it's not great. And it's the same that happens here. Like sometimes you might get a student that's driving along in a car in India, and you're going to hit dead patches in signal. So you don't always get the greatest of connections, but you I feel that sometimes you have to expect it because of how we're operating as such. But for as a tutor, the best way for us to handle things is to say be connected straight into like the internet box. I actually have a Wi-Fi extender that is on my floor, but then I have an Ethernet cable that plugs directly into my laptop. So like the main router to my router is obviously a Wi-Fi signal, and then if I didn't have the cable, that would be a second Wi-Fi signal I'd be relying on. So by having the cable, I find that it does make my net connection more stable, because the booster picks up any drops in the signal, and then the cable obviously gives me a more reliable signal. You can teach from a phone signal. There was a time in the summer where we had a couple of thunderstorms and our internet dropped out, and I was able to jump onto my phone and use the phone signal. You do have to pass a speed test, though. As tutors, we are required to pass a speed test. So yes, sometimes you might need a very fast internet to pass that test. Right, so number 3 for a con is the lesson length. On Cambly Kids, the lessons are 30 minutes long. So if you're like me that works back-to-back reservations, I do roughly 3 hours of back-to-back reservations, which at full capacity is 6 lessons. If one calls in late, you are then on the catch up. It's best not to make the call that's coming in late. So if they ring on time and the one before rang late, it's best to cut off the one that rang late and then start with the one that actually called on time. But it is very much like one will finish their lesson and you're clicking the next button straight away and going straight into the next classroom. There's no breathing room between gaps. There's no toilet break. It's like if they are ringing bang on time, you are literally click into the next one, click into the next one, which can be quite full on. My maximum is about 3.5 to 4 hours in one go, because otherwise I just need a toilet break. And sometimes you just need to like shut your eyes to get away from the screen. But some other platforms make them only 25 minutes, so you do have that 5-minute cushion. But on Cambly, they are 30 minutes. And like I said, if their slot runs from say 10 till 10:30, the next one will start at 10:30 until 11, or they can do it on the quarter past. It'd be like the quarter past or the quarter to. The only way that you do get a break is if you schedule yourself a break. So that can be a 15-minute break or a 30-minute break. But the way I think of it is if you have more breaks, then your working day is longer. So I would rather just bang out all the lessons as quick as possible. I have one break in the middle for like a bit of a lunch break and a toilet stop, but I do 3 hours, 30-minute break, and then another 3 hours, but they are back-to-back lessons when they do all turn up. Number 4 is the material length. So going back to the creative flexibility, some of the lessons are quite short, so you will finish them quite quickly. So it does help if you have a bank of resources ready to like screen share, or a bunch of flashcards that you can work on, because if you have a short lesson, you might have like 20 minutes to fill of other activities. For me, that's fine. I don't mind doing that. But for some people that might not want to freestyle like that, it could be a problem. But I kind of enjoy it, and I feel that way I can work on something extra with the kids. Say, for example, we might work on reading a book, or we just play some educational games. And for me, I find that's fine. But for other people that might prefer having those set slides, that could be a problem. And number 5 is that you are obviously paid for only the times that you work. So going back to the UK minimum wage one, if a kid doesn't turn up for a lesson, you get paid for the first 10 minutes. But then you have 20 minutes where you thought maybe you were going to get paid and then you don't, which can affect things. Obviously, if you have blocked out 5 hours of your day and you're expecting to get the hourly rate, you're actually paid by the minute. But if you're expecting to get, say, for example, $12, which is if you work the full 60 minutes, if a kid doesn't turn up, then you only get 2 of those dollars. You'll get like $2, and then the other 4 you lose for that lesson. So each lesson is about $6 you get per lesson. But if they don't turn up, you only get paid 10 minutes of it. So you have to kind of bear that in mind when you set your schedule. I tend to try and open for longer than what I would like as a minimum. So then if I do get a couple of no-shows, it does make up what I want as a minimum, but you kind of have to expect that as well, that if they don't turn up, you are not going to get the full rate of pay. But they're just some of the pros and cons of working on Cambly Kids. Like I said, for me, the pros outweigh the cons, and I've worked around the cons, like I said, like with the minimum wage and the time length and the lesson length. For me, I found something that works for me, but that might be something that you want to consider if you don't feel like teaching for 3 hours straight. That might be something that you'd have to consider into your schedule. But that's another great thing about Cambly, is that your schedule is flexible. You can work what's best for you. There are some people that might do an hour of reservations and then have an hour's break, and that's completely fine. It's whatever feels best for you. So thank you for watching, and if you haven't subscribed already, click the subscribe button, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.